Welcome to Table Talk. We're glad that you're here with us today. And as you can see, I have another special guest. Who is my special guest? What's your name?
I'm Alan.
Yay! Alan Crash. And you've probably seen him on stage and playing guitar and singing, one of our wonderful worship leaders. Yeah. And Alan, just briefly, share a little bit about your involvement here at Table Life.
Yeah, so I've been here for about 10 years. I'm involved in worship as a worship leader. I also help run sound, and I also help with youth group. So there's no shortage of energy and surprise in my life.
How do I pantomime
youth group? I don't know, chaos. How do you do
chaos?
I love our kids. I love our kids.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you have a full-time job and a family.
Yeah.
And lots and lots of things
so
going
my
on.
schedule is usually pretty full, but life is better when the schedule is full. So.
It is. So we are blessed to have you. And then also you and your wife, Becca, you also host one of our table groups.
Yes, we do.
On Thursday nights. Yep, and how's that been going?
It's been really great. It's been a smaller group, but because it's smaller, we can have a lot of very intimate type conversations. So,
and you're the taco group.
We are the Taco Thursday group. Yeah.
Taco Thursdays.
Yeah, because it's easy.
And everybody likes tacos.
That's right. And you can't go wrong with tacos.
You can't go wrong with tacos. So speaking of which, back to our table series, Open Table. We wrapped it up this week. Sad, just a little tear, right? And anyway, it's been lots of fun to really go through the Gospel of Luke with all the table stories and all. So we wrapped up this week with looking at the story of the road to Emmaus and the disciples recognizing Jesus at that table on the road, and that was kind of the idea, is that we have eyes to see where he's already present and all. So anyway, so what do you want to talk about today?
So I really related to that split, like being able to see life through the lens of Jesus Christ. We've talked about this in table group as well. I don't want to get to the kicker of the sermon so fast, but the kicker of the sermon being, any table can be turned into Christ's table. And I remember as a young Christian, I wasn't raised in a Christian home. I remember having, it was very polarized. It was like my secular life in my sacred life. And it was exhausting going back and forth between both of those all the time.
Did you tend to hide the sacred part, or was it just two different worlds that you were like living in? Or I'm just curious.
So looking back on it, what's really cool, it was kind of like having an ongoing table group, or we've talked about the ministry, if you don't know about it, Ministry Alpha, which is sort of based off of this table, but anybody could belong and just be themselves. So everyone kind of knew that we were a mixed group, but like when the church kids weren't there, we were more on the secular side, and when the church kids were there, I kind of moved over to the Christian side. I'd like to think that I was the same person all the time, but I know, at least in my brain, when I was a teen, that was not what was going on.
Sure.
So
no, that's interesting. Yeah, I think that's a struggle for a lot of us.
Yeah.
And I think too, depending on how you were brought up, or even just your background, like with church, sometimes there's an idea of the privatization of religion.
Yeah, and it's uncomfortable, right? Like you go to a guest table, we talk about this guest table, like, do you really want to be the person when there's like 20 people at a table and you're not really sure their personal life, and you see that moment of Christ being there, or want to speak into that? And like, who wants to break the ice and be like, oh man, that's a God moment, or hey, I can pray for you for that, or whatever. Like, it's still in all of the years I've been in the church, it's still not totally comfortable to break that fourth wall, or however you want to say that.
Yeah, that recognition of Christ's presence, especially in a verbal way too. Yeah. So no, I agree. I think that challenge. I mean, I think just like looking back on my story now that you bring that up, and background, like I remember like lots of friends and even myself, like there was this sense of like that was like my church life, and then like the rest of life.
Yeah.
And and even I think just reflecting on it, even lots of adults, like religion, like if you had a faith, like you kept it to yourself.
Yeah.
And that was my private thing. You don't you like talk about it. We don't discuss it. We don't ask about it. Like faith is your private thing and you do what you want. And then like, as long as you're a good person or kind to people, like that's fine. So, so it can be, exhausting, I think, to try to keep that separate, but also like, I think just limiting seeing what God's doing.
Absolutely. If you're kind of switching on and off, I feel like you miss opportunities or you miss those moments. And then you're like, oh man, like, it could be years later. You're like, there was a God moment there that I completely missed because I was so fixed on kind of going back and forth.
For sure.
I was more worried about that.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
and I think the the whole idea, even in the story, right, of where that Jesus chooses his first appearance with the people that are running away.
Yeah.
Like that's and like not with like his first thing is not with the we say the gathering of like the core disciples but he first appears to these two people that like had just really given up and do so in a home.
Right.
Or we're assuming it's in a home where he shared the table. It's just very interesting about like that choice. Why did Jesus do that?
Yeah, and it's funny you said during the sermon it was like 7 miles, so it was like in back like the joke of me was like, oh, it was a 10K of debate,
it
like,
was
like a little bit more, but it was like this 10K of debate. Like they're so concerned about what like they're so
it's like a little over probably 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hour walk,
but they're concerned about their personal safety time. Like you can empathize with that, like
right.
Are we going to be next? Are we going to be persecuted? Jesus died,
right.
He's gone, he didn't come back from the dead like he was talking about, he wasn't resurrected like he was talking about. Where is this guy?
Right. Who could have stolen his body?
Exactly. Like what happened to his body? This all can are the Romans like conspiring just to make us look like fools? Like there's a whole lot of things that they could have been concerned about in that moment.
It's just legit. When you can like put yourself in that place, like I think it's even more powerful to recognize like Jesus then appeared here like with them, particularly, and how he did.
And I think it's always interesting, this story in particular is interesting to me because he's there and he's walking with them and they don't know that it's him, right? So like what does that look like? Did he actually look like a different guy, or were like they so focused on what they were thinking about, like they just didn't get it? Like they knew this other guy was there, they knew this other guy was talking, but they just were still trying to process everything, that they weren't truly recognizing that Christ was with them.
And I think, I mean, just to parallel off that, I think it's the same like with us, that Christ is present. Is it that like we physically like we're not looking for him there, and what we're seeing is the things we're focusing on are things that aren't him, so therefore we assume. Is it something like in us, or is it more of like we just don't take care to notice?
You asked the question in passing in your sermon, is he there in this diagnosis? Is he there in my pain, in my struggling? And the answer has to be always yes, he is there.
So where?
And that's that lens of Jesus Christ. Like and I wrote down in my notes, like it's so important to have a strong community to be able to do that. Like you wouldn't be able to discern where Christ is in your life if you were doing it by yourself. Like you have to have a table, whatever that table is. You have to have a table to be able to say, I'm struggling, or I'm going through this stuff of life and I can't see Christ. I think we've all been there. I've been there. Like, I don't see Christ in this at all. Can you please talk to me and see if you let's talk about this and see where he is.
And sometimes it does, like somebody that has known you a while, like can be able to speak that truth and to say, hey, I see this. And even if you don't, like, I see this. And sometimes it's like, oh, okay. But other times it's like, wow, I didn't even perceive that or even look or notice. You know, like I related in the message, it's kind of like the English teacher that you read Shakespeare for the next time, and they reveal to you, like, do you know what's going on here and how to read this or whatever? And it's like, wow, what I just read, like just like reading the Bible, like, you know, I've been reading this and it makes no sense and whatever. I'm just gonna kind of like throw it out, and then through community, through having others around us, it helps to really glean that, and it can really be eye-opening and life-changing too.
Yeah, and we had asked the question in table group last week, what do we find hardest? Seeing what Christ has done, what Christ is doing, or what God is doing, or what he will do, or I mean, when you're in the middle of struggle, it's real hard to even think about what God has done before, right? Like it is, because you're so like focused on what's going to happen. You're not looking back and saying Christ was faithful in this, and God, you know, was there in the middle of this struggle.
So I'm curious if you can remember I'm curious what the verdict on that was. Did the majority of people say one over the other, or was it evenly split?
Yeah, so it was sort of evenly split. I think where the verdict was, it does really depend on where you are. Like if you're in a space of expectation, like I just said, like it's so hard to look back. But then again, that's why that table is so important, because I might be looking forward, and then I, you know, explain a situation to you or someone else, and you're like, but look at what he's done. Look at everything he's done in your life before this.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden you realize maybe I'm focusing more on me than I should. Maybe I need to focus on, just take a step back, look broader.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and see where God is working, because He is there.
He is right. It's just a matter of seeing, and that's most of our stories. Is that it's just like there was a time that finally I saw my like I love how Luke describes, like her eyes were open. Yeah. So just kind of wrapping things up, and so since you were the our last guest for this series, I would like you to share what's one thing that's really stuck with you just from the series as a whole, this open table, as we've been talking about these tables, and you shared about your table group, and but is there just an overarching, like something that's stuck with you that you'll carry with you from this series?
This whole series has really made me examine all of the literal tables that I've been part of in my life, and where I haven't seen those God moments. And I can think of some specific times, but I think it prepares me for a couple of things. One is the little joke is now at our table group is stop being a Martha, right? So like, because I'm busy trying to get everything ready, and you know, Beck, she is a busybody, and that's just her. Like that is, she is such a giver.
She told me, she's like, I'm Martha.
Yeah, she loves so much that she gives. Yeah. That's what she does. So like, it's stop being a Martha. So like, stop and enjoy being in the presence of Christ. Be willing to expect to see Christ in spots where you wouldn't think that He would be there, and hold sacred, I guess, all of the times and all the opportunities we have to gather around any table.
Yeah.
Because it can transform. You know, you said today, every guest table can transform into a recipient table if we allow it to happen.
Yep.
So.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Good words.
Oh,
yay.
thanks.
So guess what you're going to preach next week?
Oh.
Just
yeah. No, I'm not prepared for that.
Looking for other preachers.
Jeff will be
next
week, right?
Yeah, so Pastor Jeff is going to carry us through All Saints Sunday. It's actually going to be on Halloween, so it's kind of a like mix between that, but it's going to be a good message, and just remembering those who have gone before us. So that's this coming week, and then we're going to start a new mini series called Heretic in November, and so we'll share a little bit more about that later. Yeah, and talk about heretical beliefs in the church and Christianity and what's wrong about them, and how it matters. So so thanks so much, Alan. Thanks for sharing today. And this has been a lot of fun. So make sure you join us Sunday at 11, we're going to have All Saints Sunday. It'll be Halloween. There may or may not be the worship team in costume. Still trying to like get them to do that. We're thinking like Flintstones or Muppets.
Yeah. Oh, Muppets.
But we don't know at this point. Cast your vote in the comments what you would like our worship team to dress as for Halloween.
Oh boy.
And we
This could be
probably
interesting.
won't, but we'll just laugh at your thoughts on that. So have a great week, guys.
Thanks,
Take
guys.
care. Bye.